Hi guys, welcome back to the internet. So today I wanted to talk to you about the books that I've read throughout the month of April. I've had a really good reading month. I think one of the reasons I've had such a good reading month is because all else has been really hard. Like everything, like the world has just been very unbearable recently. But I'm really excited to share what books I've been reading in the month of April. I have read some pretty fantastic books, and so I'm really excited to talk to you about them. First things first, the first book that I read this month was Tales from the Inner City by Shaun Tan. You may recognize the name Shaun Tan, or the title may sound familiar to another short story collection of his, which is Tales from Outer Suburbia. I really loved Tales from Outer Suburbia last year, and so when I found out that there was a second and much more substantial short story collection that he published and illustrated, I was super excited. Obviously, his illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. There's just some beautiful colors and really interesting concepts explored through stories, but also the visual medium. And that's, I think, the one thing that really stood out to me while I was reading this book was how he used the visual element to really lift up his words. So the short story collection does have a theme. There are 25 stories that are themed around animals and humans and the interaction between animals and humans. And Shaun Tan has a very magical realist style, and all of his stories are kind of a little bit mystical and a little bit weird, and I tend to really enjoy magical realism, and I tend to really enjoy books about nature and animals and humanity and industrialization and that kind of thing. And so this was literally the perfect thing to get me into reading and to start off my reading month with. The next book that I read this month was a recommendation of Ariel Bassett's, and that is Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Someone Who's Been There by Cheryl Strayed. I am not even kidding when I say that within the first 10 minutes of reading this book, I was in tears. The first story in here is really powerful. It is funny and wise and haunting and beautiful and so unbelievably real. It's just, if you can't afford therapy, this book is £8.99. So this book is £9, and I feel like it has a lifetime full of wisdom that it would take you a very long time to achieve with weekly therapy sessions. So I really recommend picking this one up. The basic premise is that Cheryl Strayed runs an online column called Dear Sugar, where people would write letters to her asking for advice on various things they're going through in their lives. It might be something as simple as I don't know if I should take a gap year and travel abroad. I've only ever lived at this small town, what should I do, all the way to I've just lost my daughter, I don't know, the grief is unbearable, how do I get through this, all the way to I'm addicted to heroin. There's literally so much variety in here, and I think she does just such a fantastic job of taking each of their letters and just getting to the core of the problem and just being so brutally honest, but at the same time compassionate. And it's just one of the best books I've ever read. It makes me really want to read more of Cheryl Strayed's writings. I read Wild last year and I loved that, so I'm really excited to read her novel next. So one poetry collection that I picked up this month and I absolutely loved was Space Truck by Paige Lewis. I especially loved the first part of the collection. She has quite a range of themes explored in this one, and I think she does a really good job of expressing anxiety, and also kind of feels magical realist in its style, to be honest. I think it matches the title quite well, Space Truck. And I'm going to read you just one of them just so that you have an idea of what you're in for, although every single poem is literally completely different. On the train, a man snatches my book, reads the last line and says, "I completely get you. You're not that complex." He could be right. Lately, all my what ifs are about breath. What if a glassblower inhales at the wrong moment? What if I'm drifting on a sailboat and the wind stops? If he'd ask me how I'm feeling, I'd give him the long version. I feel as if I'm on the moon listening to the air hiss out of my spacesuit, and I can't find the hole. I'm the vice president of panic, and the president is missing. Most nights I calm myself by listing animals still on the least concern end of the extinction spectrum. Aardvarks and blackbirds are fine. Minnows thrive, though this brings me no relief. They can swim through sludge if they have to. I don't think I've ever written the word doom, but nothing else fits. Every experience seems both urgent and unnatural. Like right now, this train is approaching the station where my beloved is waiting to take me to the orchard so we can pay for the memory of having once, at dusk, plucked real apples from real trees. One book that I'm still making progress on is Dune by Frank Herbert. I'm now solidly halfway through the book, and to be honest, I'm not loving it as much as I did when it first began. I'm finding it like unnecessarily slow, and I've reached like the point where like the first arc of the novel is kind of done and he's trying to set up the second arc, and I'm really not excited about it. But I'm probably gonna just push through and try to finish it because there is a movie coming out and I would like to finish the book before I watch the movie that's coming out this year. That being said, like, I'm really unexcited about it. I just don't think there's any really radical, like, characters or... I mean, I think the world is the one thing that's, like, interesting about the novel. But yeah, I'm really not feeling the characters these days. Like, they killed off a few of my favorite characters and now I'm just kind of like, what do I do? So we'll see if I get through this one. I think once I finish this one, I probably won't be reading any of the rest of the series, to be honest. But maybe I'll change my mind by the end of the book. It's just, yeah, unnecessarily long and slow and not very radical. But that being said, like, that kind of is to be expected because it is a book that was written like over 50 years ago, and I feel like there must be something about it that makes it worth so much acclaim, you know? So I'm really like trying to keep my expectations low and just try to enjoy it for what it is, but I just can't help with my 21st century mind like criticize the lack of strong female characters or the lack of any really interesting arcs, you know what I mean? So yeah, I started Jean-Paul Sartre's Politics and Literature, which is a collection of interviews on politics and on literature. I'm currently reading The Writer and His Language, and the next essay or the next interview is on the structure of language. So those two are probably the most interesting to me. I didn't really enjoy what he was talking about in terms of literature because it just seemed a bit outdated. And I also am just realizing how like esoteric the writing style is. It's super like difficult to follow, and without background reading on Sartre or on his specific views on politics and literature and like the views at the time, it's really inaccessible. So I don't actually recommend this one if you wanted to read a collection on politics and literature. I don't think this is the best one to pick up. In better news, I started The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I'm about halfway through the book at this point. My bookmark is a pencil. Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. I'm about halfway through it at this point. It's only like 180 pages, so I should really be able to finish it in another day or so. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. I think the way that it's written is really accessible, and it really like grounds you in the present moment even while you're reading. It's quite interesting in that way, and I think that a lot of what he's saying is almost common knowledge but not common practice. And I think what he's trying to do with the book, in the way that it's structured, is trying to like allow you to realize these things for yourself and allow you to realize the value of the present moment in your daily life, and how like once you let go of these external judgments that you place on yourself or the events happening in your life, you can really access the power of now. You can access a presence and a connectedness to everything that'll just radically improve how you feel. And I picked this one up because I wasn't feeling very present in the moment. Obviously, quarantine is not the best time in terms of mental health, and so I thought this one would help me with my mental health. And for the few days that I was reading it, I was really like present in the moment, and so I definitely want to get back to it and finish it up and hopefully return to that like feeling of connectedness that I do think is possible to achieve through reading this one. That being said, like I've heard that this is a book that has a huge cult following, but there's also people who think that it's nonsense and like that it doesn't actually say anything and they don't really get it. And I completely get why they wouldn't get it, because he doesn't really say anything that is meaningful unless you already have a sense that that is the truth. So it's kind of an interesting philosophy text in that way, because it's not making an argument. At no point does it make an argument. It states what he believes, and it states his experience, and it asks you to tap into your own experience to validate what he's saying. So it really is radical in its like non-argumentation style. It's literally just saying like, this is what I think and this is my experience, and if you want to have this experience, then maybe consider these things. It is written in a question and answer format as well, so I do really like that as well. Another book I started that I am almost done with, but I'm not quite there yet, is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematorium by Caitlin Doughty. I've got 100 pages left of this book and I am really enjoying it. I've been listening to the audiobook because I couldn't bring myself to start this book, like just looking at it on my bookshelf and knowing that I wanted to have read it, but I don't really feel like sitting down and reading a book about dead bodies. So I just like have been listening to the audiobook, and I really recommend the audiobook. Caitlin, her voice and the way that she voices the narrative is really engaging, and it kind of makes it feel like you're talking to someone about it, rather than like all of these images of like dead bodies and stuff are like entering your brain without kind of a medium of humanity. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, I'm finding it super interesting to hear about the death industry, because it's not something that I've ever considered or ever thought about. And it's really making me question a lot of the biases that we have against death and the way that we shield our young and our entire society from death by like making it seem less like disgusting than it is, but then also making it less natural than it is. It simply is a fact of life that people will die, and that their bodies will remain around for us to deal with. And it's super interesting here from Caitlin, who is kind of weird in her like obsession and like interest in dead bodies, but also like it's such a human inquiry. Like I realize that there's so many people who maybe have never actually considered death, but they have watched serial killer shows, or they've watched like detective shows or things like this that deal with death in this, again, shielded way, that make it seem as if it's like, oh yeah, it's something that happens, but we're not actually dealing with the problem. And so this has been a really good book in that sense. It's also really funny. I thought like Caitlin has a really particular sense of humor, and I've been really enjoying it. So those are the books that I've gotten into this past month. One last magazine that I've been really enjoying, that I always really enjoy and I always want to mention because I feel like not enough people know about it, is New Philosopher magazine. I've been reading their issue on change. I always find their articles like so well done in their like accessibility to modern day issues and modern day like problems, but also the philosophical history that comes before that and the literary history that comes before that. And yeah, I really enjoy New Philosopher magazine, so I just wanted to mention that this issue has been something that I've been reading. And if you want to get a subscription to them and get the physical you can get a 1-year subscription to New Philosopher magazine that is either digital or physical or both. So that is all. I think that's everything. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you've been reading this month. If you have any book recommendations, if you have any poetry recommendations, I'm especially interested in those. And also any short story collections that are particularly like magical realist or interesting, because I think I might be getting into short stories now that I've read more Shantan. So yeah, that's everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!